Imagine waking up, walking into your kitchen, and knowing that your first meal of the day could help you control hunger, reduce unnecessary snacking, and make your fat loss journey easier. And no, I'm not talking about skipping breakfast. I'm not talking about starving yourself. And you certainly don't need to spend an hour doing exhausting workouts just to get rid of belly fat. For many adults over 45, the real challenge is not simply eating less. It is staying full, controlling cravings, preserving muscle, and making better food choices consistently throughout the day. And this is where your breakfast can make a difference. Because instead of starting your morning with a meal loaded with sugar and refined carbohydrates, you can build your breakfast around three simple things: protein, fiber, and minimally processed foods. There is no magical food that suddenly switches on your body's fat-burning system. But there are meals that can keep you satisfied longer and make it easier to control your overall calorie intake. And that becomes especially important as we get older. After 45, many people become less active than they were in their younger years. Muscle mass can gradually decline, daily energy needs can change, and stubborn fat around the waist may become harder to lose. That can feel frustrating. You may think, I'm not even eating that much. So why is my belly still there? But here's the good news. You don't need a perfect diet. You don't need to completely change your life overnight. And you don't need to follow another extreme diet that leaves you hungry and exhausted. Sometimes, the better strategy is to build one simple, repeatable meal that helps you make better decisions for the rest of the day. Now, I want to be very clear about something. This breakfast will not magically melt belly fat while you sit on the couch. Anyone promising that is selling you a fantasy. What it can do is help support fullness, better food choices, and a calorie-controlled eating pattern which, over time, can contribute to losing excess body fat, including abdominal fat. So, what exactly should you put on your plate every morning? That's what we're going to break down next. Before we talk about the breakfast that can make your mornings easier, we need to understand something important about belly fat. Because if you think one particular food is responsible for your stomach, or that one special food can magically burn the fat away, you're going to keep chasing the wrong solution. Belly fat is not simply the result of eating one bad food. Your body stores fat in different places, including around the abdomen. Some abdominal fat is stored under the skin, while deeper visceral fat surrounds internal organs. Visceral fat is particularly important from a health perspective because having too much of it is associated with a higher risk of several metabolic health problems. But here's the part many people don't want to hear. You cannot tell your body, burn the fat only from my stomach. Doing hundreds of crunches won't force your body to use belly fat specifically. And eating one supposedly fat-burning food won't selectively target your waist either. When you lose body fat, your body decides where that fat comes from. Over time, creating an appropriate calorie deficit through your overall eating pattern and physical activity can lead to reductions in body fat and, for many people, waist size. And this brings us to a mistake that happens every morning. You wake up hungry, pour yourself a bowl of sugary cereal, grab a pastry, spread something sweet on white toast, or order a large, sweetened coffee. It may taste good. It may be convenient. But many of these breakfasts provide plenty of refined carbohydrates or added sugar without giving you much protein or fiber. And when a breakfast isn't very filling, you may find yourself hungry again surprisingly soon. Then comes the familiar cycle. You're hungry before lunch. You grab a snack. Maybe it's a few cookies. Maybe another coffee. Maybe something from the vending machine or kitchen. And none of those individual choices may seem like a big deal, but small choices repeated every day can add up. Think about someone in their late 50s or early 60s who says, I barely eat anything, but I still can't get rid of my belly. They might eat a very small breakfast because they're trying to cut calories. By 10:30 or 11, they're extremely hungry. By lunchtime, they're ready to eat almost anything. And later in the afternoon, another craving appears. The problem may not be that they're eating too much at breakfast. The problem may be that their breakfast isn't helping them stay satisfied. That's why we need to stop looking at one meal in isolation. Your waistline is influenced by your overall eating pattern, what you eat throughout the day, how much you eat, how active you are, how well you sleep, and how consistently you follow those habits. And there's another factor that becomes increasingly important as we get older: muscle. As we age, maintaining muscle becomes an important part of healthy aging. Muscle supports strength, mobility, and physical function. And when you're trying to lose body fat, you don't want your strategy to simply make the number on the scale go down. You want to support your body while reducing excess fat. That's why an extreme diet that leaves you weak and constantly hungry isn't the goal. The better approach is to build meals that give your body useful nutrients, provide satisfying protein and fiber, and make it easier to manage your overall food intake. And that brings us to the solution. Instead of asking, "What's the one food that burns belly fat?" let's ask a much better question. What kind of breakfast can keep me satisfied, support my muscles, and make healthy eating easier for the rest of the day? That's exactly what we're going to build next. Now that we understand why belly fat can be so stubborn, let's talk about the breakfast itself. And I want to make this very simple. You don't need a complicated recipe. You don't need expensive fat-burning powders. And you don't need a breakfast that takes 30 minutes to prepare. Instead, think about building your morning meal around 3 things: protein, fiber-rich carbohydrates, and a small amount of healthy fat. When these foods work together, you get a breakfast that can be more satisfying and nutritionally balanced than a typical sugary or highly refined breakfast. And one simple combination I want you to consider is plain Greek yogurt, berries, chia seeds or ground flaxseed, and a small portion of nuts. Let's break down why each part is there. First, Greek yogurt, your protein foundation. Start with plain, unsweetened Greek yogurt. The reason we're starting here is protein. Protein can help you feel satisfied after eating, and it provides amino acids your body needs to maintain and repair muscle tissue. That becomes especially relevant as we get older. If you're trying to lose excess body fat, you don't want your entire strategy to be about eating less and watching the scale go down. You also want to support your muscles. So instead of choosing a breakfast that is mostly refined carbohydrates, adding a meaningful source of protein gives your morning meal a stronger nutritional foundation. Now, there's one important detail. Look at the nutrition label. Some flavored yogurts can contain quite a bit of added sugar. So if you're using yogurt as the base of this breakfast, plain Greek yogurt is usually the simpler choice. And if dairy doesn't agree with you, you don't necessarily have to abandon the idea. You can look for an unsweetened alternative that actually provides a useful amount of protein. The key is the protein, not the specific brand or product. Imagine a 6-0-year-old who normally starts the day with a bowl of sweet cereal. Instead, they try a protein-focused breakfast like this. The goal isn't to promise that their belly will suddenly disappear. The goal is much more practical. Do they feel satisfied for longer? Do they find it easier to avoid unnecessary snacking? And does this breakfast help them make better choices later in the morning? That's what matters. Second, berries, your fruit component. Next, add berries. You could use strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, or blackberries. Berries bring natural sweetness, fiber, vitamins, minerals, and other beneficial plant compounds to the meal. And compared with many pastries, desserts, or heavily processed breakfast foods, they can add plenty of flavor without turning your breakfast into a sugar-heavy meal. But don't misunderstand this part. Berries are not a belly fat burner. They don't contain some secret compound that tells your body to burn stomach fat. Their value is that they help you build a more nutritious and satisfying breakfast. And that's an important distinction. We're not looking for one magical ingredient. We're building a meal where several useful foods work together. Third, chia seeds or ground flaxseed, the fiber boost. Now comes a small addition that can make this breakfast even more satisfying. Chia seeds or ground flaxseed both provide fiber, and chia seeds are particularly rich in a type of fiber that can absorb water and form a gel-like texture. Fiber can support digestive health and may help contribute to feelings of fullness. But don't make the mistake of thinking that more is always better. If your usual diet is low in fiber, suddenly adding a large amount of seeds can leave you feeling bloated or uncomfortable. Start modestly and give your body time to adjust. And remember to drink enough fluid throughout the day, because fiber works best as part of an overall healthy hydration pattern. If you have swallowing difficulties, significant digestive problems, or have been advised to follow a particular diet, it's sensible to check with your healthcare professional before making major changes. Fourth, a small portion of nuts. Finally, you can add a small portion of almonds or walnuts. Nuts provide healthy, unsaturated fats, along with protein, fiber, vitamins, minerals, and other nutrients. They also add something important to a meal that many people overlook: satisfaction. But here's where portion control matters. Nuts are nutritious, but they are also calorie-dense. A small handful can fit beautifully into a balanced breakfast. A huge bowl of nuts on top of an already large serving of yogurt, seeds, and fruit can turn a healthy breakfast into a very high-calorie meal. So don't think healthy food means I can eat unlimited amounts. That's not how fat loss works. Healthy foods still contain calories. Now put it all together. Here's the simple formula: plain Greek yogurt plus berries plus about 1 tablespoon of chia seeds or ground flaxseed plus a small portion of nuts. That's it. No complicated recipe. No special supplement. No expensive ingredient that promises to melt your stomach fat. And you don't necessarily need to follow these exact portions either. Your ideal serving size depends on your overall calorie needs, appetite, activity level, dietary preferences, and health situation. Someone who is very active may need more food than someone who is sedentary. Someone trying to lose weight may need smaller portions than someone maintaining their weight. The important principle is the structure of the meal: protein for nutritional support and fullness, fiber-rich foods for digestive health and satisfaction, a controlled amount of healthy fat for nutrients and flavor, and, most importantly, a breakfast that is simple enough that you can actually repeat it. Because the best breakfast for fat loss isn't the breakfast that sounds impressive on social media. It's the breakfast you can eat consistently, enjoy, and fit into a sensible eating pattern. And now that you know the basic formula, the next question is even more important. How do you make this breakfast work in real life without accidentally adding hundreds of extra calories? That's where the next few simple tips can make a big difference. Tips: how to make the breakfast actually work. Now you know what to put in the bowl. But here's where many people accidentally sabotage an otherwise healthy breakfast. They take a good idea and then add just a few extras that completely change the meal. So let's go through 7 simple rules that can help you make this breakfast work in the real world. Tip number 1. Don't turn your yogurt into dessert. If you're starting with plain Greek yogurt, keep it plain. It can be tempting to add a large spoonful of honey, maple syrup, sugar, sweetened granola, or flavored toppings. And yes, those foods can taste delicious. But if your goal is to reduce excess body fat, adding several sources of concentrated sugar and calories can work against the reason you chose the breakfast in the first place. If you want more sweetness, let the berries do the job. Strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, or blackberries can give you plenty of natural sweetness and texture without needing to turn your yogurt into a dessert. Remember, you don't have to make your food miserable to lose weight. You just need to stop adding calories that don't provide much extra satisfaction. Tip number 2. Pay attention to portions. This is one of the biggest mistakes people make with healthy foods. They hear that nuts are healthy, chia seeds are healthy, Greek yogurt is healthy, and fruit is healthy. Then they assume more must be better. But healthy foods still contain calories. Nuts, seeds, granola, nut butters, and dried fruit can become surprisingly calorie-dense when portions get large. So don't casually pour a huge handful of nuts into your bowl. Don't cover the entire yogurt with granola. And don't add multiple spoonfuls of nut butter just because the label says it's natural. A healthy breakfast still needs to fit into your overall energy needs. Think balanced, not unlimited. Tip number 3. Make sure your breakfast actually contains enough protein. Don't just assume every yogurt or yogurt alternative is high in protein. Check the nutrition label. Look at the protein amount per serving and compare products when necessary. This matters because your breakfast should make a meaningful contribution to your overall protein intake rather than simply looking healthy on the surface. And for adults getting older, maintaining adequate protein intake alongside resistance exercise can be particularly useful for supporting muscle health. You don't need to obsess over a perfect number at every meal. Just make sure your breakfast isn't essentially fruit and toppings with a tiny amount of protein hiding underneath. Tip number 4. Don't expect breakfast alone to remove belly fat. This might be the most important tip in the entire video. If you eat this breakfast every morning but spend the rest of the day drinking sugary beverages, eating oversized portions, snacking constantly, and barely moving, your belly fat probably isn't going to disappear. And that's not a failure of the breakfast. It's because one meal cannot compensate for an unhealthy overall pattern. Think about your entire day. Then think about your entire week. That's where your results come from. Your breakfast can be one piece of the puzzle, while the other pieces include regular walking, resistance training, adequate sleep, sensible portions, and reducing your intake of sugary drinks and heavily processed foods. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to make enough good choices consistently. Tip number 5. Add a short walk when you can. Here's another simple habit that can fit naturally into your morning. Take a short walk after breakfast when practical. You don't need to turn it into an intense workout. You don't need special equipment. And you don't need to walk for an hour. Even a brief period of comfortable movement can help you become more active throughout the day. For older adults, the goal is to keep it safe and realistic. Walk at an intensity that feels appropriate for your fitness level, choose a safe surface, and use support if you need it. The best walking routine is one you're actually willing and able to repeat. Tip number 6. Measure your waist, not just your weight. Here's something else that can prevent unnecessary frustration. Don't judge your progress entirely by the bathroom scale. Your body weight can change from day to day because of hydration, food in your digestive system, sodium intake, and other normal fluctuations. That's why looking at longer-term trends can be more useful. You can also track your waist measurement under consistent conditions, such as around the same time of day and at regular intervals. Don't measure yourself every few hours hoping to see a change. Give your body time. Look at what happens over several weeks, rather than becoming emotionally attached to one day's number. Tip number 7. Give the routine enough time. And finally, don't expect a completely different body after 3 mornings. You may see dramatic promises online about losing belly fat in 7 days, or waking up with a flat stomach after eating one special food. Be skeptical. Real changes in body composition generally require consistency. Give your eating pattern enough time to evaluate whether it's helping you control hunger, reduce unnecessary snacking, and maintain a reasonable calorie intake. And don't keep jumping from one viral diet to another every few days. Try a sensible routine. Pay attention to how you feel. Track your progress. Make adjustments when necessary. Then, stay consistent. Because in the long run, boring habits you can repeat are often more valuable than exciting diets you abandon. And that is the real goal of this breakfast. Not to create a miracle, not to promise instant belly fat loss, but to give you one simple morning habit that can become part of a healthier routine. So let's bring everything together. If you're looking for a simple breakfast that can support your fat loss journey, remember this combination: plain Greek yogurt, berries, chia seeds or ground flaxseed, and a small portion of nuts. It's not magic, and that's actually the point. The protein can help you feel satisfied and provides important building blocks for maintaining muscle. The fiber from the berries and seeds can contribute to fullness and digestive health. And choosing mostly whole or minimally processed foods can make it easier to build a balanced meal without relying heavily on added sugars and highly refined foods. But don't make the mistake of believing that this one breakfast will somehow melt belly fat by itself. It won't. Your waistline is influenced by what you consistently do across your entire day and week. Your food choices, portions, physical activity, sleep, and overall lifestyle. And if you're over 45, there's another goal worth remembering. Don't focus only on becoming lighter. Focus on becoming healthier and stronger, while gradually reducing excess body fat. Your weight is just one measurement. Preserving muscle, staying active, maintaining strength, and building sustainable eating habits matter too. And remember, everyone's situation is different. Your age, medications, medical conditions, digestive health, allergies, dietary preferences, and individual nutritional needs can all affect what breakfast is appropriate for you. So use this meal as a practical framework, not a rigid prescription. And here's your challenge. For the next week, try keeping your breakfast simple and consistent. Then pay attention to three things. How hungry are you before lunch? Are you reaching for unnecessary snacks less often? And can you actually see yourself continuing this routine? Now, I'd love to hear from you. What do you normally eat for breakfast? Tell me in the comments. And if you're willing to try this breakfast for 1 week, let me know by commenting, "I'm trying it." If you found this video useful, subscribe for more practical nutrition, healthy aging, and fitness strategies designed to help you stay strong and healthy as you get older. And if you know someone, a spouse, friend, brother, sister, or family member, who is trying to improve their health, share this video with them, because sometimes the most powerful changes aren't the extreme ones. They're the small habits you can repeat tomorrow, the next day, and the day after that. You don't need a miracle food. You need a routine you can actually live with.